Welcome to the new edition of the ABBA League magazine. In the 7th round, Budućnost hosted Mega Vizura, who was forced to play without Nikola Jokic. MZT arrived in Belgrade to face Partizan with their third coach this season already. Crvena Zvezda went to Hungary and the strengthened defending champion to Novo Mesto. Also a historic first home game of the ABBA League in Valjevo, and at the end of the show we will of course present you with the best 5 actions of the round. We start with the news. After Zmago Sagadin, Vrbica Stefano has also stepped down as MZT's head coach. The Macedonians also let Jordan De Moint go, as he only averaged 6 points in the 6 games he played for them. Vlado Ilijevski is a new Cibona player. The respected international replaces Devon van Ostrom, who only averaged 2.2 points per game. And Szolnok also has a new player, as Obi Trotter went to play in Greece. He gets replaced by another American, the 26-year-old Parish Petty, who spent last year playing for Virtus Rome. And we start our highlights in Zadar, where Olympia started this match with a fury, as they scored the first 10 points in the first 3 minutes. The home team needed more than 4 minutes to score their first points. It finally happened through Josip Sobin. When Alen Omic scored and drew a foul as well, the visitors had raced away to a 20-6 lead. And they didn't stop there either, as when Sasu Salin scored, the score was 27-8. After that, Filip Kraljevic with a bit of an embarrassing moment, as he somehow managed to miss his dunk, and that happened twice in a row as well. The first quarter made for a sorry view for the hosts, as they only managed 9 points while the visitors stood at 29. Zadar needed a reaction, and they got one, as they scored the first 8 points of the second quarter, 6 of which contributed by the young Franco Shango. This time it was the visitors with a slow start to the period, with Begic putting an end to a 3-minute spell, and when Filip Kraljevic finally scored, Zadar had closed the gap to just 6 points after a run to 11-4. Then the visitors' response, as they managed to get back to a 10-point lead after they scored 3 times for 3-2, which were contributed by Rupnik, eventually the game's best scorer with a racket tally of 18. 44-35 for Olympia at the half. At the opening of the second half, the Zadar was quick to reduce the deficit to 5 points when Ive Ivanov scored twice in a row. The hosts rounded up an 8-0 run through James Florence, who made it 44-43. The visitors needed 5 minutes to score their first points in the second half when Hristo Nikolo hit for 3. After that, Olympia again got away to a 7-point lead when Marko Marinovic scored twice in a row. Klemen Prepelic was then the last one to score in the third period, as he set the result after 30 minutes of play. It was 55-46. The home team again started the quarter better, as they were quick to close the gap to 5. And that margin was then more or less the same for the next few minutes. 2 minutes before the end of the game, Josip Sobin made it 62-57. And a minute later, it was Marko Marinovic with an all-important basket, which probably sealed Olympia's 4th win of the season. It ended with 67-60 for the visitors, a 5th defeat of the season for Zadar, who only managed to score 3 times for 3 from as many as 18 attempts. 2,100 people turned up in the Morača Hall to see Budućnost host Mega Vizura, forced to play without the league's MVP, Nikola Jokic. Aleksa Popovic was quick to fire twice for 3, while for the guests it was Dusan Chantekin who broke the deadlock at the other end. Budućnost was already in front by 8 points when Vladimir Dašić scored twice, And quickly after that, the home team had a double-digit advantage when Bojan Subotic was successful. It was 27-19 after the first 10 minutes. Soon in the second quarter, the visitors closed the gap to just 3 points when Alexander Marelia scored 2 of his 14 altogether. But Budućnost was quickly back in front by 10 points as Bojan Subotic was able to contribute 7 points to that run. It was 44-33 after the first 20 minutes, with Vladimir Dašić rounding up the half with a 3. Budućnost was already in front by 13 points when Aleksa Popovic opened the scoring in the third period. Dusan Chantekin was having a record game with 17 points in the end. He was the main force for the visitors as he put them 9 points behind. But then they eased off a bit, which Budućnost took good advantage of and raced away to a 16-point lead when Darko Planinic set the result after 3 quarters of play. Bojan Subotic had a record-scoring game with 22 points. He scored the first 7 in the last period as the lead grew to 19. Andrija Bojic was also having a good game as he managed to close the gap to 14. But then all doubts were cast away when J.R. Reynolds scored twice for 3 and got Budućnost back to a 17-point lead. Mega then managed to soften the blow till the end of the game, mainly through Nenad Miljenovic, who was able to assist as many as 14 times in this game and set the final score of 88-80. A good win for the second-place team of the league, in which they scored as many as 13 three-pointers compared to Mega's 5. Still unconvincing, Partizan hosted MZT, who arrived with their third coach already this season as Verbica Stefano stepped down and the team was guided by his assistant, Boban Miteu. Milenko Tepic was the first one to score in this game from this counter-attack. And for the visitors at the other end, it was their newest acquisition, the American Dion Dixon. It was a good spell for MZT, who was in front by 7 points when the Canadian Owen Klassen scored. And the visitors were also in the lead come the end of the first period, which ended with 15-11. Partizan responded well at the start of the second one, and after a 12-4 partial, they took the lead for the first time in the match, as a 17-year-old Vanja Marinkovic scored for 3. And a response of 7 consecutive points from the visitors as they retook the lead through Kirill Nikolovsky. Now it was time for the 17-year-old Marinkovic to shine again as he scored 7 of 9 Partizan's points to equal the score to 29. And that was also the result after the first 20 minutes. Luka Bogdanovic rounded up a run of 12 consecutive points for the home team as they took the lead of 5 points at the beginning of the third period. And then Damian Stojanovski closed the gap back to 3 points, after which Nikola Milutino started the next Partizan's run of 7 consecutive points. The black and white were in front by 10 points at the start of the last period. And Vanja Marinkovic had scored 14 points altogether in the previous 6 games, and in this one he managed as many as 20. And mostly through his contribution, the home team was in front by 17 points in the 36th minute. Then the next 5 points were scored by Uroš Lučić to close the gap to 10 points, but after that the game was decided as the Frenchman Boris Dalot scored his second three-pointer and gave Partizan a 13-point lead 2 minutes before time. The final score stood at 65-50 to Partizan, which leaves the Macedonians at just 2 successes this season. Szolnok had a tough task hosting the only remaining undefeated team of the league, probably still fatigued from the Friday's Euroleague's exploits against Olympiacos, but that didn't really show as they scored the first 8 points of the game. The deadlock for the home team was broken by Lazarick Jones. But then when Marcus Williams scored his first 3-pointer, Crvena Zvezda was in front by 9. Then the home team got it together as they scored the next 9 points, a run concluded by David Vojvoda, who set the result of the first period, which ended with 27-26 for the visitors. In the second quarter, Crvena Zvezda scored 4 times for 3 from their opening 5 offenses, and the lead grew to 10 points. Szolnok again responded through Strahinja Milošević as he closed the gap back to 5. Still, the visitors were in front come the end of the half, which ended with 47-42 after Stefanovic dunked from the counter-attack. The visitors opened the third period really well as they quickly put together a 10-0 partial, and after Jenkins's points, Crvena Zvezda was in front by 18. The home team needed more than 3 minutes to score after the break, with Strahinja Milošević making it 60-44, but that was a short-lived relief as Charles Jenkins scored 2 successive 3-pointers to put Crvena Zvezda 21 points to the good, and that after a 19-3 partial for the guests. The visitors nurtured a gigantic 30-point lead come the end of the third period, in which Nikola Kalinic was the last one to score, and which won by Crvena Zvezda by 28-5. Therefore, the last quarter was a mere formality with numerous fouls and free throws. One of the few field goals in this period was scored by Jaka Blažić, and that was for 3. The game ended with 89-65, a 7th consecutive win of the season for Crvena Zvezda, in which they managed to score 11 3-pointers from only 16 attempts, which left the Hungarians with no chance in this game, as they only scored 3 times from 14 attempts. A full house turn-up in Novo Mesto to see Krka host the defending champion Cibona, for whom Vlado Ilievski was playing for the first time since joining their ranks in the midweek. Damir Markota was quick to announce his shooting evening as he scored the first 4 points of the match. Chris Booker at the other end was the first one to score for the home team. He was eventually their best scorer with 17 points. The visitors combined well in offense, as in this case when Jure Lalic finished the team effort well. Cibona was already nurturing a double-digit lead when Markota scored his second 3-pointer, and soon after that, Ivan Siriščević put Cibona 13 points to the good. (23-15) to the visitors after the first period, and that with a Hukic 3. Vlado Ilievski scored his first points for his 13th club in his illustrious career in the second quarter, as he made it 26-17, and soon after that Cibona again had a double-digit lead when Marin Rozic scored twice in a row. Still, Krka managed to close the gap slightly by the end of the half, helped also with this strange Markota move. 41-35 after the first 20 minutes of play. Chris Booker opened the third period well, as he contributed 7 of Krka's 10 points at the beginning of it, and the lead had shrank to just a point. But Cibona would provide the answer, as Jarell Blessingame rounded up a 9-2 partial for the visitors, who got away to a 55-47 lead. Krka was held close by Jasmin Kukic's 3, but they were still behind by 8 come the end of the third period. At the start of the last period, Cibona was quick to open up a 14-point lead when Marko Jagodic-Kuriđa scored 3 times in a row. Krka would provide some resistance through Chris Booker, who single-handedly managed to keep the hosts in play. But that wasn't enough to beat a team in which many more players were up to the task. And when Filip Krušlin scored twice for 3, Cibona had a 16-point advantage just 2 minutes before time. The game was finally decided when Damir Markota rounded up a 9th collective action to make it 80-67, while the end result was set by Malcolm Armstead, who was a shadow of himself in this match, as he scored only twice from his 15 attempts from open play. After that sensational win in Ljubljana and after 6 successive away games, Metalac was finally ready to perform in front of their own crowd, as they hosted Igokea in that historic first home game in the ABA League. Nemanja Todorovic became the first player to score in that home game. And for the visitors, it was their captain, Branko Jorovic. Metalac was already in front by 12-4 when Slobodan Dunjerski scored for 3. But that was followed by a run of 7 successive points from the visitors, as Igokea closed the gap to just a point when George Drenovac scored for 3. That was also the margin after the first 10 minutes of the game. Then the first lead of the game for Igokea, as Petar Torlak scored. But that was followed by 12 consecutive points from the home team, 10 of which were contributed by Nikola Jevtovic, as Metalac ran away to a 31-20 lead. Igokea responded well, managing a run of 12-2, after which they were only trailing the hosts by a single point when Jorovic scored. Marko Jošilo was the last one to score in the first half, which ended with 38-34. For Metalac, and this is the last act of the first half. Quickly in the third period, an offensive from Metalac, after which they took the lead of 14 points when Nikola Otašević rounded up a run of 10 consecutive points for the home team. But then the next 7 was scored by the visitors, as Petar Torlak put them 7 points behind. Didn't last long though, as the home team was quick to restore a 14-point lead through Nemanja Todorovic. After that, George Drenovac set the score after the 30 minutes of play. It was 63-52. When Branko Jorovic scored at the beginning of the last quarter, Igokea trailed Metalac by 9 points. But soon they were able to get back to a 14-point lead when Nikola Jevtovic scored 2 of his 22 altogether in this game. Metalac was already 18 points to the good when Nikola Mališević scored 7 in a row, after which Jorovic was able to reduce the deficit back to 14, but that was of course not enough. And Metalac in the end won the game by 81-68, which after 5 consecutive defeats is now a 2nd successive win for the newcomer. After that memorable EuroLeague win over the defending European champion Maccabi, Cedevita was ready to confirm that success in the ABA League, where they hosted Levski. Of course, the Bulgarians with only 1 win to their name prior to this match. Fran Pilepic was the first one to score in this game, after which the next 4 points were scored by the visitors' newest acquisition, Stanimir Marino. Levski was in front by 13-11 when Hristo Zachariou scored twice from far, But then the next 9 points were scored by Cedevita, who was also in front come the end of the first quarter, which ended with 20-14. Levski opened the second period well, as they took the lead of 23-22 when Zakhariev rounded up a 10-2 partial for Levski. Pavlin Ivanov was eventually the game's best scorer with 23 points to his name. He was the one who put Levski in front with 33-28. But then a blow for the visitors, as Hristo Zachario picked up an injury and was forced to leave the court, which the hosts took advantage of, and it wasn't long before they were back in the lead as Mario Delas scored to make it 35-34. The margin was the same at the end of the half, in which Ivan Ramljak was the last one to score in it. The Bulgarians opened the third period really well, as they quickly took the lead of 44-41. But that got followed by an incredible run of the hosts, who managed to score the next 23 points. A run started by Luka Babic, in which he scored the first 7 points. Marko Arapovic rounded up the third quarter in its last second to set the result of 64-44. Cedevita won this period by 27-8, while Levski hadn't scored for more than 5 minutes in it. At the start of the last period, Levski managed to get within 14 points, but it didn't last long before the home team was back to a 19-point lead when Ivan Ramljak scored. Then 2 consecutive 3-pointers from Levski as Stanimir Marino closed the gap to 12, but when Luka Babic scored to put Cedevita 15 points in front, the game was officially over, because that happened just 2 minutes before time. It ended with 86-68, a sound victory for Cedevita, in which it had outjumped their opponent by 39 rebounds to 26. So, Olimpia and Budućnost managed to keep the lead throughout the whole match to win in the end, while Partizan had to correct things in the second half to reach it. No problems for Crvena Zvezda in Hungary, while Krka registered their first home defeat of the season. A first home win for Metalac, while Cedevita confirms a rise in form with a smooth win over Levski. Crvena Zvezda remains at the top of the table, still without a defeat this season. Budućnost is still second, followed by both Slovenian representatives. Both Partizan and Cibona now stand at 3 victories, while Levski replaces Metalac at the bottom as the bottom team of the league. Our most valuable player of the round is Nikola Jevtovic from Metalac with a playing index of 28. He managed that with 22 points, 4 rebounds, 2 steals and 1 block in the 30 minutes he played in the win against Igokea. He also becomes the first Metalac player to be given that honor in the league. And now for the best 5 actions of the former round. At number 5, we find this nice collective effort from Cibona, finished by Damir Markota with a dunk. At number 4, this quick counter-attack finish furiously by Stefan Jovic. Even more furious was the dunk at number 3. This is how Mario Delas finished things off in this counter-attack. We also have a dunk at number 2. It is courtesy of just 17-year-old Vanja Marinkovic, who was also the best Partizan player in this game. And at number 1 we have this last shot of the first half, George Drenovac with a rarely seen effort, and this is our best action of the round. The 8th round starts on Friday in Ljubljana, where Olimpia will host Igokea. Then the games will follow all the way through Saturday and Sunday, And we finished the round on Monday, first with a Croatian derby between Cibona and Cedevita, and then with the last game of the round in Skopje, where MZT plays Metalac. And that's all from us today. Join us again next time. Until then, it's bye-bye.
Liga!